Coming up on Windows Weekly, Leo's out, but never fear, we still have Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley here to talk about Office 365, the Surface Pro, what's happening with Windows Phone 7.8, and a whole lot more.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 297, recorded January 31st, 2013, a slightly nicer Stalin.
Windows Weekly is brought to you by Podio from Citrix. Manage your products with files, instant communication, and collaboration all in one workplace. Start using Podio today. It's free. Just visit podio.com to set up your first workspace, and invite your team to get started. Work the way you want to with podio.com. And by Carbonite Online Backup. Automatic, continuous, unlimited backup for your computer files. Just $59 a year. Try it free at Carbonite.com and use the offer code WINDOWS to get 2 bonus months with purchase. And by ShareFile. Enhance your workflow. Send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile from Citrix. Try ShareFile today for a 30-day free trial. Go to ShareFile.com, click the radio microphone, and enter Windows.
It's time for Windows Weekly. This is the show where we delve into the world of Microsoft and see what exactly is going on in Redmond and wherever else they're holding their events these days. As you noticed, I am not Leo Laporte. He is on special assignment at the Super Bowl, and why not? He's a hardworking guy. He's on every show on Twit. He deserves to go to the Super Bowl, but thankfully, I'm joined by Paul Thurrott of WinSuperSite fame, also of Windows Weekly fame, and all around. I heard you were an excellent ballerina at some stage of your life. Is that true?
Apathetic ballerina.
Apathetic ballerina. That's true. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. Thank you. How are you?
I think I sound better than you. You sound awful, though. Are you okay?
Do I?
Yeah, you sound down. Why so down?
No, I'm not. I'm good.
All right.
This is me good.
This is Paul Good, everybody. Oh, there's a laugh. There we go. I'll take that.
This is what I got.
And we've got beer drinker extraordinaire and Microsoft expert, Mary Jo Foley. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Just good. Everybody's very low and down today. If I didn't say, I'm Aya's Akhtar, by the way. I might have forgotten to mention that, because there was like a lower third. If you listen to the audio, you're like, that's obviously not the smooth, dulcet tones of Leo Laporte. And I do not have smooth, dulcet tones. So anyway, shall we talk about stuff that happened with Microsoft this week? Office 365 launched. I believe that this is the $100 a year subscription plan that Microsoft's got going. They like to say it's about $8 a month, but they don't offer that as an actual option. It's just a nice thing they like to say. Mary Jo, what's going on with Office 365?
Yeah, I actually think you can get it for the $8.33 a month or whatever. I believe you can.
I didn't think you could.
Well, you can pay monthly, but it's $9.99 a month.
Is it $9.99? I thought it was $8.33.
It's bad math.
Okay.
Now, if you pay for the year, that the cost works out to $8.34 a month.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so they launched this product. Well, they actually only launched part of the new Office on earlier this week. I forget what day it was. The days are a blur right now. But what was funny was how they launched it. They rented out some space in Bryant Park in New York, which is near this big ice skating rink and the public library. And they put up this thing that looks like a geodesic dome made out of plastic. And they had a bunch of people in there doing demos with Surfaces and a few of the new Windows 8 PCs. And they were silk screening some tote bags. It was very low key. There was no keynote.
Someone was stitching bags. There were
it kind of was like that.
Socks being created, mittens.
Yeah. But, that was the launch. And the reason they did kind of a lower key, more consumer-focused launch was the thing that they launched this week was Office 365 Home Premium. They didn't launch all of the rest of Office 365. So Office 365 Home Premium is the version that's aimed at households and consumers. Office 365, every other SKU that's called that is aimed at businesses. So the business SKU people looking for those business SKUs are going to have to wait until February 27th, which we didn't know until this week. We thought they were all going to launch together, and that it was going to be a much higher profile, bigger launch. Instead, they just launched the consumer SKU, separated it from the business SKU. They're starting to try to get people interested in buying things on like a rental basis. So you pay every year, and for the year you get the usage rights of Office 2013 apps on up to 5 PCs and or Macs. You can switch that up any way you want. You could have 4 Macs, 1 PC, or vice versa. And so it's a very different way for them to try to sell Office, because traditionally they've sold it as boxed copies. It really hasn't been something that they tried to make a subscription in any real way. So this is the whole major and new push for the product this time around.
Paul, do you think people want to subscribe to Office? I mean, it's a very expensive piece of software when you bought it as a boxed copy. And I know a lot of people don't like to upgrade those things because they know how it works and they don't necessarily want to be upgraded to the latest thing. Is a subscription option the best way to go for consumers or just for Microsoft?
Actually, honestly, I think it's the best way to go for both. But you have to be careful about what you mean on the consumer part of it, because there's no doubt that most people who buy this in some ways will end up paying more for Office than they did in the past, which sounds like a bad deal. But the thing that's changed is recognizing that families have multiple PCs, especially, and even some individuals have enough devices where this might make sense. They're offering the most liberal licensing policy they've ever had, where you can install this thing, like Mary Jo said, on up to 5 devices, Macs and PCs right now. And so for my own family, for example, I've got 2 kids and a wife, and so there's 4 installs right there. And $99 a year is a tremendous value for what you get, because the version of Office you get is the equivalent of Office Professional 2013, which normally costs $400 if you were to buy 1 copy of it at retail. And so on that note, it's really a great deal. There's other benefits to it. You know, you get Skype minutes every month, you get additional SkyDrive storage and some other things, but they've I really do think it's a win-win. I mean, with the caveat that, yes, in some ways you may, people who had got it before with a new PC and then skipped 1 or 2 versions of Office were in some ways saving money. But I think the new features in this suite, and combined with this really liberal licensing policy and the household licensing capability, just puts this thing over the top. It's a pretty cool product for what it is. I mean, we're talking about Office productivity here, so it's by definition a little boring in some ways, but in the context of Office, I mean, I think this is a pretty major deal.
Mary Jo, do you think with the subscription option that Microsoft would be less likely to do giant revisions like they did with the ribbon, or flattening everything down to the Metro style? Because if you're subscribing, I would think you'd want some kind of consistency from version to version.
So one of the things you're supposed to get if you subscribe to Office 365 Home Premium is they're saying whenever we do an update going forward, and they're not committing right now to when that will be, but they're saying anytime there are updates, we're going to push them out to you over the web. So you're going to always have the most up-to-date version of all the products that are in the family. So that's supposedly another enticement for people who are using Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Outlook, all the apps that are in the family. If you're somebody who's like, oh, I don't want to wait till Service Pack 1, or I don't want to wait 3 years for Office 16, which is how they used to do that traditionally, you're going to be somebody who's probably more apt to go the subscription route, because that way as soon as something's ready, you're going to get it. Maybe on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, we're not quite sure, but you're going to definitely have that advantage over people who buy the box copy.
I just don't think a lot of people bought the box copy and was like, oh, the latest one, I'm going to wait in line. I know last time, I mean, for operating systems, I can see that, but Office is Office.
Yeah, I know. And, a lot of people said to me, oh, I bet you went right out and bought your Office 365 Home Premium. I did not, because I almost never use Office. I'm a 1 PC household, so the 5-user license doesn't do a lot for me. Plus, as everybody who listens to Windows Weekly knows, I use Notepad. I don't use Word. I don't use OneNote.
How often is Notepad updated, would you say?
If Notepad was being updated, I'd be like camping out like Robert
Once a decade.
Would you be camping out, or would you be afraid that they were going to change it? I mean, Notepad's great because it's so stripped down.
Right.
If they
'Cause
added
it's
one
simple,
feature,
right?
I'd get upset.
Yeah.
Don't add a feature to Notepad. It'd be horrible. That's what Word
SkyDrive integration.
SkyDrive
Yeah.
for Notepad.
Yeah, so for I think this is going to be interesting to see, because I think there are a lot of people like me who they don't really need Office as much anymore. They could get by with the web app versions, unless you're somebody who is like more of a business and enterprise user and you want to have the ability to use Office at home or at work. But if you're just like a casual home user, I think it's harder to make the case that somebody like that will care about every bell and whistle in the new PowerPoint. I use PowerPoint maybe 3 times a year. For me, PowerPoint web app is fine.
Yep. What about this idea of the whole user licenses?
So it'll be interesting to see who goes which way on this one.
You get 5 licenses, but does anybody, I mean, you could take that box copy and install it on a lot of different PCs. It's not like it's calling home and stops you from doing that for a lot of them. I mean, not that you're supposed to do that and it goes against the license, but a lot of people do that anyway. Is that going to look like a selling point? It's like, oh, $100 and I get 5 licenses. Did people think they weren't capable of doing this before?
Well, actually, they weren't. I mean, so some versions of Office offered multiple installs, but it was really only 2. Some explicitly allowed 3. It does in fact activate. So it's a product activation thing, just like in Windows. So this is actually really liberal. I mean, the flip side to this thing is that, and this is something Microsoft's done in the past with Windows Server, for example. The licensing is so liberal on the consumer side that it makes the business ones look really expensive by comparison. And I could imagine there would be some small businesses who are saying, "Hey, wait, what's going on here? Like, you've got this really liberal install policy over here on the consumer side that we don't get, and we're paying more per month, and we're not getting even the same number of apps, for example, that are available in the Office suite." And so we'll see. You know, this has the ring of something that's probably going to change over time, especially on the business side. But you know, again, people like Mary Jo, individuals, this is not necessarily a great deal. They can continue to get Office the way they used to, which is with a new PC or just by buying it. But I think this is one of those things where households with multiple PCs, there are big advantages to this because, you know, my kids both have PCs. My wife and I both have PCs. I mean, I suppose we could have acquired a version of Office whenever we got those PCs, but there gets to be kind of a weirdness where, you know, one of the machines has Office 2007, 2 of them have Office 2010, and then now one has 2013. And you know, across those 3 versions, sometimes these things get different enough where you could be helping a kid with homework and it's like, I don't even know how this thing works anymore because it's so different. You know, that seems like a little thing, but there's a nice consistency to be able to have everyone not just on the same version, but being updated as you go and getting all those new capabilities as they occur.
So the consumer version's out, but the business versions aren't out yet? That's coming eventually?
I'm actually really confused by that. I don't understand.
Kind of confusing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask Mary Jo up front what she thought about that, and then she actually kind of stepped through it a little bit. But I am really confused by that. I talked to Microsoft ahead of the launch, sort of assuming that what was coming up was the launch. You know, like they were going to launch Office 2013 officially. They were going to launch the new versions of Office 365, and there are associated servers that sit on the back end as well. And all they wanted to talk about, because that's all they were launching, was Office 365 Home Premium. And I said, well, okay, but what about the differences between this and small business? And, you know, and the person I talked to professed not to know anything about this other product, as if it didn't even exist, you know. And I thought that was kind of amusing in a way because these things are so isolated from each other, but they don't really, you know, they kind of exist in their own little worlds. And so I don't know if, you know, February comes and they have another launch event or something for the business stuff. I kind of bet they don't, to be honest, at this point.
Yeah.
I'm sure the original plan.
If this launch was so muted, I'm not really sure what they would do for the business one. Would they just like throw like a tiny breakfast for people? It's like, here are 2 bagels.
They put those little parachute guys, like they could throw little parachute guys down in Bryant Park, and if you caught one, you got a free copy of Office.
You mean like the little army men parachute guys?
Yeah.
Not like the Google style parachute guys where they just fire them out of Zeppelins.
No, not actual human beings. I mean the little plastic things, like you might see at a sports arena or something.
That would be
Bobbleheads.
That I bet would get a lot of press. You know what? If Microsoft did that, they just showed up at Bryant Park with like little army men and just threw them down. Said,
right.
That's it. Office for
Have fun with
business.
that.
That's business. And then just
It's
move
all
on.
business, baby.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
So I think Paul and I heard really different things about what the February 27th date is, right? So when I asked about this,
Yeah.
I heard
What's up?
people who are current Office 365 subscribers who have enterprise plans, so the E plans that under the current way that they describe them, they already are getting the new bits, and they have been since like last fall, I was told, although I have yet to find anybody who has
All right.
seen any
Actually,
of these new bits.
You're
So the
correct.
new
So
Exchange,
you're correct.
Link, or SharePoint. Okay, but they.
All right. I'm going to read what it
and
says
then
in my
it's
notes.
the brand.
I got it backwards.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
We need to get forwards. If we had things backwards,
All right,
what's forwards?
What it says in my notes is that the date by which new business customers can purchase Office 365 is February 27th. The latest version, it says specifically to new business customers only. Existing customers can get on the next version. And then it says 227. So it's sort of contradicts itself. That's how I take notes. They make no sense at all.
You've been reading Microsoft news far too much. Then
You can tell they didn't want to talk about the February thing too much. They were, obviously they're pushing this new thing.
So the answer is that we don't know.
No, so here's what they told me. They said February 27th is the day when brand new users who are not current Office 365 subscribers, or people who are trying to get the new versions of it, like Office 365 midsize, which doesn't exist right now, and Office 365 Small Business Premium, which doesn't exist right now either, are going to be able to start getting the bits. And you won't actually get them on February 27th. That's the date when you'll start possibly getting a notice from Microsoft saying, hey, in 2 weeks, you're going to start being upgraded to this. So it's kind of a staggered rolling launch kind of a thing. But again, I'm confused why there's different dates for people who are existing users and new users.
And like you, I'm sure, I've heard from a lot of people who have been paying for whatever plan for however long now, a year and a half, and they are irate that this thing has launched and they don't have access to the new version, right? From their perspective, they should have gotten this first, or at least gotten the option to get it first. And I actually sort of agree with that.
You agree with being irate, or
that they, right? I mean, they've been paying for the service. Why wouldn't they be offered the chance to get the new version first?
Is this Microsoft's current strategy right now? Just annoy everybody who likes them? Because these are the people they actually want to serve. The people who want the products.
It's a bad plan, poorly communicated.
Yeah. So I'm going to address a point right now. Everyone who thinks I hate Microsoft, it's not me. It's that they do things like this. When Paul and Mary Jo are both like, we don't know what they're talking about, and they do this. This is what they cover all day, and we're all confused. That's part of the. We're just like, why? Why is it like this?
We are confused by this. Yes, there's no doubt about it.
Confusion is Microsoft's
so there's
message.
A lot more coming. I maybe I don't know. Expect it. I mean, I expect to hear about it whenever it happens. I'm confused as well. Yeah.
And you know why I think this is partially confusing is even though, and we've kind of addressed this a little bit, but Office 365 Home Premium is not like everything else that's called Office 365. In fact, it's really Office 2013. So it's all the client stuff, and all the rest of the things called Office 365 are server stuff, right? Like they're actually servers hosted in Microsoft data centers. Office 365 Home Premium is not that. It's,
no servers.
It's the client apps, right, that you download.
I actually, and you know, I wrote a review of Office 365 Home Premium and realized like 24 hours later that I had never effectively communicated that if you know, because I sort of went into this thinking, to most consumers, they don't know what Office 365 is, right? So this is not interesting to them. The problem is a lot of the people that read our sites do know what Office 365 is. And when they hear that there's something called Office 365 Home Premium, they're confused because they know that the existing versions of Office 365, which go back about 18 months in non-beta form, they go back even further in beta form, offered hosted versions of Exchange, SharePoint, and Link. And those products are not part of Office 365 Home Premium. So they have the same name, but they're completely different. And by the way, to get an Office suite with an Office 365 business subscription, it's a lot of money. It's very expensive. You know, the low end, I think it's $6 a month version of Office 365 today, that, you know, where you get Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, Lync Online. You don't get Office with that, right? You have to have your own Office, or you can use your, the Office web apps that they give you. They don't provide Office like they do with Office Home Premium.
Somebody in the chat room is asking, what happens on leap years? Do you still have access, or
you didn't take the day off?
Oh yeah, we actually should talk though about what. So if you do subscribe to Office 365 Home Premium, a lot of people were asking me this: what happens if you subscribe and then you decide, you know what, I don't want this, I don't want to do a subscription. Yep. So then what happens to you? Say you've created all these documents, you've been saving them into your SkyDrive. Like, what happens if you say, all right, after my year is over, I'm not going to subscribe anymore? And so there's a whole set of things that happen in that. You go into this thing called read-only reduced functionality mode if you don't automatically upgrade, so that you can see your documents, you can print them, but you can't edit them. So that's kind of interesting. But then if you want to, you can go back and use a legal older copy of Office you have that you can use against those documents, or you can use Office web apps. But people should know that if you decide not to subscribe anymore, your documents are going to go into this read-only mode. So that's something else to think about.
Well, okay, actually, I wouldn't put it that way. No? It's the applications that go into read-only mode. So,
sorry, you're right. The applications,
right, so
not the data.
Nothing happens to your documents. You could use the
Although
Office
you can't
web
edit
apps.
anymore, can you?
Not with the applications.
You can't.
But not
with the applications.
But you could do it with the Office web apps. You could buy a standalone version of Office. They would still work, obviously.
Yeah. Sure. Sorry.
But the flip side of this is that liberal licensing policy I was talking about. If you have 5 computers that you have deployed Office 2013 to, you can deactivate one on the fly. You can install it onto a 6th, the 7th, and 8th, whatever. The deactivated computers, Office does not leave those computers. They stay installed. They work in this reduced functionality mode that Mary Jo just described. And you can deactivate and reactivate on the fly. And that's actually pretty cool. I guess it's a little reminiscent. I use Adobe Photoshop Elements, for example, and that package, I think it allows you to install on 2 computers, and it too lets you deactivate on the fly, does not uninstall the software. And so if you go back to that computer and want to start using it again, as long as you've deactivated one, you can reactivate it and it starts working again. I think the difference with the Microsoft solution is you can do it from this web portal on office.com. It's very convenient. So you don't have to have physical access to the PC to activate or deactivate it.
So in a previous life, I used to study tax law. This stuff sounds as complicated as when I was studying tax law. This is far too in depth for a consumer, I think. Oh, by the way, if you use this for now and then this changes to read only, this will.
I don't know. I mean, well, I guess I understand why you say that, but I also think that people understand what they're getting with a subscription. If you subscribe to HBO and you stop paying for it, you don't expect to go back and get HBO on demand the next month. I mean, you understand that is over.
Yeah, that's not the software model. The software model was you buy, you own, that's it. The subscription model is relatively new for Microsoft.
But they're not being deceptive about what's happening here. I mean, it's.
Oh no, I didn't say deceptive. I said complicated.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the reason it might be complicated is that we've certainly never done it this way before, at least not at this scale, and so it will be interesting to see how this goes. But like I said, I mean, I really. This is like the whole argument against cloud computing in a nutshell, in a way. I mean, some people want to micromanage all of this stuff, and some people will always want to, no, I want to think that I own this thing, and I'm going to, even though it's attached only to one computer, this is exactly how I want it to be, and there'll always be that. But I think, honestly, that this model, given the way things have gone with multiple devices in a household, it makes a lot of sense, and maybe more to the point, it's Microsoft, so there's always going to be a certain level of complexity, I guess. But, it really is a pretty liberal licensing policy. It is unlike anything they've ever done for something like this. This is arguably if not their single most core product, then certainly in the top 2.
And as we know, people love change. So this is going to go over.
People, yeah,
you know what the thing is? What I always I give Microsoft a lot of credit for doing crazy changes like this or difficult changes like this, and then they keep going. That's the other thing. They don't just backtrack and go, that was a mistake. We're not going to do this anymore. They make it the standard for so long. At some point, people do accept it. Just like when Windows 95 showed up, they're like, what happened here? What's this start button? People grew to love that. People will get used to this too. It's just that initial shock of, wait, what's going on from this company that we know? It's that first change that usually freaks people out. So, you know what? We should take a quick break right now. Maybe even bring Leo Laporte back from vacation. I wonder what he's going to give us a message about today.
Hey, Ayaz. Hey, Mary Jo. I see you, Paul Thurrott. Actually, I don't see any of you. I'm really in New Orleans right now. But I am here because I wanted to tell you about a brand new sponsor, not just on this show, but on the whole Twit network. It's from our friends at Citrix, so you know it's going to be great. They are always enhancing the Citrix products, and they've got a new one called Podio, Podio.com. Podio. You remember this because this is exactly what you're looking for. If, for instance, you have projects, you work together with people in business, you're perhaps designing your first startup. Oh, it'd be great. I wish we'd started from Podio on day one. We are using Podio now in the back office to keep track of things, to have instant communication and collaboration. It's like a social network with file sharing, attached files, spreadsheets and documents. You got your email. It's just all in one collaborative space. They have smartphone applications on Android and iPhone, tablet application. The tablet, actually, the iPad app is amazing. You got to take a look at it. Podio is a way to manage, to control the information flow in your business. You pick a workspace, and by the way, you could try it free, and I would encourage you to do this because if you walk through the process, it's easier to understand what Podio is than for me to describe it to you. But basically, what happens is you go into Podio and you pick a workspace template. You can have a generic one that, you know, doesn't have any preset stuff, or you can choose from a lot of templates for project management and so forth. And once you get that workspace set up, you completely customize it to manage your products. You bring anybody on the team together, everybody at work. See how easy it is? It's so cool. Coworkers, clients. You can also do external contacts, whoever you want. Plus, you can work from mobile devices with the free Podio apps. You know, Chad and I have been trying it as a way of producing the shows, so he could put the show rundowns. He still used Google Docs, by the way. It just collates it all into one simple place. There's an activity stream that's kind of like the news feed in Facebook or a Twitter feed, so you can see what people are doing. You can message one another. It is an incredibly sophisticated, modern way to manage your workflow that's easy to use and that people really like. So what I want you to do is try it free today. There's no special offer code or anything. Just go to Podio.com, sign up. You're going to want to set up your first workspace and then invite your team to get started and start playing with it. You see how you can hook it up to LinkedIn and Facebook and Google Plus and all the other sites. It works great with ShareFile, the other Citrix products. You're probably brand new to you. You've never heard of it before. I know I hadn't when they first showed it to us about 6 months ago. I was really blown away. Podio, Podio.com. Try it free today. Set up that workspace and play with it. Just play. Think of it as a sandbox. I think you'll find a lot of ways you can use it. Now back to Windows Weekly.
Thanks to Podio for showing up because they do some great project management stuff. I've been testing it out for know-how because I want to get my projects in order, lots of different points to take care of and lots of different projects at one time. So I'm actually really, really a big fan of this. This is exactly what I needed. Anyway, let's talk about the Surface Pro. It's actually coming out. It's the Windows 8 powered tablet from Microsoft. It's not Windows RT. It actually runs full Windows 8. What's the news on this?
So we know now know where the launch is and how it's going to be for the Surface Pro. It's going to be the main launch is going to be in New York City, and it's going to be at the Best Buy that's in Union Square, which is one of the bigger Best Buys. I know.
This makes the Bryant Park thing look like
what's funny is
like
the
Rockefeller Center comparison, you know.
Yeah, Surface RT, they launched that at the Microsoft pop-up store that they built in Times Square, but they just recently closed that store. We're not exactly sure why. It could have been because of lease disagreements, or somebody else already had a lease on the same space. I don't know. But the result is they don't really have a store that's open at midnight where they can launch this thing. So Friday night, they're going to have a big reception in New York with Panos Panay, who's the GM. And then everybody's going to walk over to this Best Buy, which is kind of anticlimactic to me in a way. And at midnight, the door opens and you can run in, and that's how it's going to go down.
Well, that sounded like a giant silence. Is that what's going to happen, or was that just because Skype let out? Because theoretically,
Yes.
I would hope that Surface does not
Skype
have that
blip.
kind of. That could have been this horrible symbolic kind of thing, or just a mistake. But the Surface Pro coming to Best Buy. Okay, now a lot of the news this week has been about its storage issues, if you want to call it that. I believe 41 gigabytes of storage is being eaten up by Windows 8, the built-in apps, the recovery partition. So on the 64 gigabyte Surface Pro, you get 23 gigabytes. Paul, do you think this is a big deal? Should people be freaking out about getting less than half of the stated storage for themselves?
No, they should not. I just don't understand why this is always an issue. We had the same conversation when Windows RT was coming. I guess the way I look at this is Microsoft has described Surface Pro as sort of an ultrabook. And I think the standard on ultrabooks right now is 128 gigs of storage. And if I off the top of my head, I want to say that Surface Pro has 83-ish gigabytes free on such a machine. Fine. You know, I was talking about earlier about with the way the industry is changing, and we're moving to cloud computing, and you know, things are just different now. And we have SSD drives that are, you know, we started out at 64, was very common for a few years. Now 128 is more common on portable computers. We just don't have the same needs for local storage that we used to. So I don't understand all the complaining about this. I use a variety of tablets and also ultrabook type machines here that have 64 or 128 gigs of storage. I've never once run out of space on any of these things. I don't understand the issue.
What's your take on this, Mary Jo?
Yeah, I think I just am really surprised people are up in arms about this. I mean, Ed Bott, who works with me at ZDNet, talked about, you know, there's also, I mean, operating systems always take up room on any device, right? He was comparing MacBook Air and how much space is taken up there by the operating system and other components. And yeah, it isn't exactly the same ratio as what's going on with the Surface, but I can tell you, I have the Surface RT. I have a 32 gig version of that. Mm-hmm. I've never even come close to running out of storage.
Okay, well, I'll play devil's advocate here at this point, because I think this is what people are getting really upset about. It's that 64 gigabyte model, and really, I think, when you have less than half available for yourself, although I don't know what kind of applications or media you're going to put on your machine, when you say that you have 64 gigabytes and you get 23, it's not the same as when you're positioning it as a PC. The fact is, this is the Surface. It's a tablet. It's going up against every other tablet. For the most part, non-Windows 8 tablets are using really svelte operating systems. They're not eating up gigabytes and gigabytes, like 41 gigabytes of 64.
Well, but the problem is, you're right. But the issue is the people complaining about this are hypocrites, because they're really technical people. And I've heard from people who have said something like, "Oh, that did it. I'm not getting a Surface Pro now. This is ridiculous." I'm sorry. And the reason this is a problem is you knew going into this that Windows 8 is Windows 8. It is of whatever size. It has whatever footprint. You know there's a recovery partition. You know that there are workarounds so you can remove that recovery partition and get space off of the machine. You don't buy a Surface because it has some amount of space on it. You buy a Surface because it's a Windows computer, and that's what you want. You know, this issue doesn't drive people to an iPad. People who buy an iPad want an iPad. They don't really care or think about how much space is on the thing. It's just, that's not part of the conversation.
I love you saying that phrase. You know what you're like. You know what you're getting into. That's like
ridiculous.
That's a really strange thing to say. No, but like, okay, so they're trying to position themselves to consumers. I see these ads on television, and at BART stations everywhere, giant Surface things. They're not positioning this thing as a PC at all.
No. Hold on. Well, yeah, I think you misinterpreted what I meant by that.
Go for it.
Surface Pro is a PC, and they will be positioning that as a PC, absolutely. But that doesn't matter. If someone walks into a BART station and sees an ad for Surface Pro, and they're like, "Wow, I really want to get this thing," that it has 23 or 80 or whatever gigabytes free of space is not going to change those people's minds in the slightest. The people who are complaining about this thing, this is also not really changing their minds. It's sort of like this self-righteous indignation thing. Like, if you care enough to know that that amount of space is not acceptable, you also know that this thing is a PC, that you can recover some of that space, and that this isn't really an issue, that Microsoft did bring this really heavy, long-lasting OS down to these mobile devices, and that's one of the side effects. You can get a really, like you said, Svelte or whatever operating system like Android or iOS on a tablet if space is what you care about. You know, it's like I was debating iPad versus Surface months ago, actually before Surface came out, with someone from work, and he was saying, I can get 8 or 9 hours of battery life on this thing. And I said, well, it doesn't matter if you can't run Office. What are you doing with that amount of battery life? Are you watching movies or something? Like, who cares how much battery life you can get? I'd rather have 5 hours of battery life and be able to use Office. I could get work done with it. Then I get 5 hours of work done. I'm not going to get 5 hours of work done on an iPad, or 8 hours or whatever. This is just, it's like a fake argument. It doesn't matter. If the space matters, buy a real Ultrabook, buy a touch Ultrabook, buy something else. Buy the one that has 128 gigabytes. By the way, it has a 64 gigabyte expansion possibility via micro SD. Buy one of those. I mean, it's just, this doesn't seal the fate of this machine. It doesn't matter. It almost completely doesn't matter at all, I think.
Yeah. To me, I was way more upset about learning about the battery life of the Surface Pro than the storage.
Yes. Yep.
Like, the fact that this thing is going to have between 4 and 5 hours of battery life, for me, makes it not something I would consider as an Ultrabook replacement. So right. The storage was the last thing I really cared about. I mean, I feel like aren't people storing more and more things to the cloud now anyway? Isn't that kind of the way people operate?
Yeah, well,
to
that point, if they are using the cloud much more, they're going to want to be on Wi-Fi a lot more, which means that battery life is going to be a much bigger concern.
Yes,
you're right, Mary Jo.
That's exactly right.
Because if the content isn't on your machine, you're trying to stream it all the time.
You've embraced Windows on a tablet, but for some reason you have to have your entire MP3 collection on the tablet as well. That part of your life you have not modernized, but you need this tablet thing, I just find that whole thing to be just a baloney argument. My Ultrabook gets 6.5, 7 hours of battery life. It's a great machine. If Surface only gets 4.5 to 5 hours of battery life, Surface Pro, yeah, that is a problem. And there's your compromise right there. So Surface RT versus Pro, I think that's going to be the big argument. You can get lots of battery life on a Surface RT, but if you can't get work done on it, and maybe you can, by the way, because it does have a home and student version of Office, then that's not necessarily the right machine for you. But if Surface Pro only gets 4.5, 5 hours of battery life, maybe that's not the machine for you too. I mean, that's a serious issue.
I gotta love this. The Surface Pro. The Surface is supposed to be part of Microsoft's no compromise Windows 8 experience. Is this true?
It's working out like pick your compromise.
Yeah, you kind of said, do you want to be able to work all day, or are you gonna need to be plugged in? Do you want to have all your content on there? You buy the bigger one or get another card.
Mm-hmm.
It just irks me that this is Microsoft's idea of this is the model for what a Surface tablet should be like, or excuse me, a Windows 8 tablet should be like.
You know what this is? Microsoft is trying really hard with Surface, and I mean Surface broadly, to make decisions in the way that Apple does. Apple has a very draconian way of looking at things. And I think with this one, the Windows way, the Microsoft way, generally speaking, in the past has always been give the people what they want, which means give them everything, And I think they're making a concerted effort with these devices to do things differently, to not have every single option available on Earth. And it's tough for us as PC users because we're used to having every single option available on Earth. And that means such things as, well, I could put up with 5 hours of battery life if the battery was removable and I could just swap it out, Lots of people would be okay with that, but that type of machine is a compromise of a different type aesthetically or from a design perspective or whatever. And, that's not what they were going to do with that. So, yeah, the result is kind of an Apple style compromise. The old adage about Apple was, they don't do everything, but what they do, they, it's perfect. They do that stuff really well. And I think that's what Microsoft was trying for, but unfortunately, anytime you emulate some other person or company, it doesn't necessarily always work out.
So there's another rundown about Microsoft delivering Office for iPad. I thought this rumor has been around for a while. There's been purported screenshots of it. It's not come out even with Office 365's launch. Is this thing ever happening?
Yes.
Silence.
You have to bring back our old response to everything. We just don't know, right? But we think so. Paul and I are both pretty sure
We both heard that it's happening.
It's going to happen. Yeah.
But there are questions. I mean, they're having a problem getting the SkyDrive app updated from Apple, right? Because Apple wants a chunk of that extra storage payment that people can make. And by the way, most probably don't, through the app. Now, Office is a completely different animal entirely, because now you're talking about a lot of money. They want to charge it to tie it to the Office 365 Home Premium subscription. $99 a year. Apple would love to get 30% of that. Microsoft would love not to pay Apple 30% of that. So that might be the stick and the issue there. But the plan, at last I heard, it's been a little while, but yeah, it was for that to happen later this year.
I mean, should they even bother to do something like that when they can constantly say, look, if you want a real productivity machine, there are toys out there like iPads and Android devices. But if you want a real Office experience, you need to do real work, use Windows 8, because we can run anything.
Well, but
Yeah, that's-
you got to look at it from different perspectives.
That's the controversy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if Microsoft's overarching goal is Windows, then no, you don't put our Office out on the iPad. However, from the Office 365 Home Premium perspective, remember we were talking about 5 licenses for all of your devices. Well, people don't just have Macs and PCs. They have PCs and they have Android tablets and handsets. They have iPhones and they have iPads. So what if this stuff was available on everything and you could take advantage of that and spread it out to the different devices as well?
It wasn't
It's
Microsoft. They were a software company, right? Didn't they used to
Yeah,
make
I think
software for
They were a
everybody?
software company. Yeah, allegedly.
Yeah.
A long time ago, before
that,
the
yeah.
Surface days, they used to do software for everybody. It's
It's
crazy.
hard to
Well,
think
and,
back that far, but yeah.
Yeah, like other teams already do software for iPad, right? Like so, you can manage your iPads using Windows Intune, which is their PC management service. There's Bing applications for the iPad. There's Bing applications for Android. So it's not that far-fetched to think of them actually doing this. It's the constant tension, though, between the Office and the Windows division. Like, I think somebody sits there and goes, okay, if we do this for iPad, will we make more money than if we don't do this for the iPad? And that's what it's going to come down to in the end, I think, is which way are they going to make more money?
There are a million things that go through my head when I think about this. And one of the conspiracy theory weird ones in the back of my head is, what if Microsoft does put out Office for the iPad and no one buys it? Right? No, I mean, seriously, think about that. What if they do release it and it's like,
Now, are you expecting it to be a paid application, or is it like free, like OneNote, where you can access SkyDrive if you pay a subscription? Or, I mean, what model would make sense?
The way that OneNote works today on iPad or whatever it's on, the other platforms, mobile platforms, you don't have to pay anything. It just works. It will access your notes up on SkyDrive. My understanding of the Office suite would be that it would be tied to an Office 365 Home Premium subscription. So you'd have to pay Microsoft a subscription to gain for those apps to do more than probably that reduced functionality mode Mary Jo was talking about. That, maybe in there, if you just install the app, which would be free, you could just sort of read docs, But if you paid for a subscription and tied it into that subscription, you could edit, save to SkyDrive, save to SharePoint, and so forth. But again, this is where the Apple rules get in the way, because as of today, Apple wants a chunk of whatever those revenues are.
Mary Jo, do you think that would be ever a possibility if Office landed in the iPad that nobody would buy it? I mean, it just seems like it's, I'm going to say a phrase that's crazy. It's too big to fail.
I think in
That
some
never
ways
happens.
too big to fail, right? I mean, I think it's definitely something Microsoft's planning to do, though, and I think the key word in the Office 365 Home Premium marketing literature was devices, right? When they launched it, they said you can install Office apps on up to 5 devices, and then right now it just says, but that only means PCs and Macs right now. So
There are
it's
all
kind of
kinds
leaving the
like-
door open.
But there are footnotes.
right?
It's even more explicit
Yeah.
than that. There, if you look at their marketing materials, there are footnotes that it doesn't say iPad, but it literally says
Right.
other devices will be added over time.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's stopping Microsoft from doing an Office for Android, or just saying flat out, look, the web version we have is good enough. Access it via the browser. I mean, if they're so interested in mobile and they're saying it's going to be on selected devices, what's stopping it from being broader than just apps anyway?
I honestly, I haven't tried this recently, but I was told that the Office web apps on iPad and Android tablets experience is actually is good. You can edit documents. It works. It's fine. Obviously, you have to be connected for that to work. It's not clear to me that Microsoft has to do more than essentially duplicate that functionality in an app and allow those things to function offline so that you could be sitting on a plane with a keyboard, typing your document, save it locally to your device's storage, and then when you get online, it syncs to SkyDrive, just like happens today on a Windows PC. So, I mean, to me, that's all they have to do, and I don't see any reason why they can't do that.
Well, yeah, I believe you're probably definitely right about the whole offline capability. Once again, productivity doesn't stop when you're not connected, so they definitely need to have that ready. But I still think that, I mean, if Microsoft wants people to do something like Office 365, they want to pay for subscriptions, they should be able to access it on whatever device they have, because that's actually the strategy they're doing with Xbox, and it's working, I think, very slowly when it comes to the rebranded Xbox Music and Xbox Video. But this open approach is a collective win for Microsoft. It just seems like Mary Jo was saying, the idea of Windows fighting the siloing at Microsoft still very much in the way.
Sure. It's funny you just mentioned Xbox Music. I hadn't considered this, but Microsoft has announced its intention to port that app to iOS and to Android, and I have to wonder on the Apple side, how does that work within Apple's rules? Obviously, people who use Xbox Music have Xbox Music Pass subscriptions, or they can choose to buy music from Xbox. Does Apple get 30% of all that as well? I believe they would, right, under the current rules. I mean, I have to think that Microsoft is trying to negotiate with Apple to make sense of this and to arrive at some compromise that makes sense for both.
Well, maybe the Xbox division is easier to negotiate with, in theory. They seem like they're the cooler kids at Microsoft in general. They're just like, okay, you know what? We're going to do video games. It's going to be great. We're going to let our console be hacked by everybody. We're going to take those and integrate it into our second thing. Maybe they're just like the best negotiators at the Xbox division or the entertainment division. And it's the other buildings, the office buildings and Windows, it's so friendly to Apple. I could see probably grudges being held there. I don't think there's any grudge between Xbox.
I'll tell you, I mean, Office is an order of magnitude bigger than Xbox. I mean, there are over 1 billion active users of Office. There are only, there aren't even 100 million people using Xbox. It's probably half that. So, actual users. Completely different market sizes.
Just not to think about that 30% cut that Apple wants. Should Microsoft just be picking? Look, just take the 70%. Right now, you're getting nothing by not being on this OS.
It's worse than that, because if people get used to the iPad and they use these chintzy little Office alternatives enough, they may decide they don't need Office anyway, and that will guide future decisions. I mean, at some point, there's probably a tipping point where enough people do that, and maybe Office, that billion number is where they plateau, and then it goes down from there because people stop using it.
So let's talk about the Surface RT. Apparently, there's a version of Outlook RT running around, or Outlook for Windows RT. Excuse me, it's not called Outlook RT. That'd be silly. But apparently, it'll never show up.
Who knows?
So what's the story with this?
I know. This is so crazy. So I can confirm this week that there definitely is a version of Outlook that Microsoft has ready to work on the Surface RT. So it will work on ARM-based devices. I've talked to people now who've seen it. They say it's being dog-fooded inside Microsoft. But then what makes this complicated and weird is the other tips that Paul and I are both getting is this product may never come out. So it exists. They're testing it. But then there's all these political reasons, as well as I'm hearing too, maybe some battery life issue reasons that this might not be delivered to us users. And it's really frustrating because, as everybody who has a Surface RT knows, the built-in mail app on that is horrible. And everybody I talk to says, man, if they would have Outlook for the Surface RT, I'd pay. And people are willing to pay quite a bit for it because they use Outlook on other devices and they're very happy with Outlook. There's so many more capabilities in Outlook that work that don't even come close in the mail app. But I don't know if they're going to come out with this because the team that built the mail app sits in the Windows division. Here we go again. And the team that built this Outlook app supposedly sits in the Office division, as you would expect. And so both of them have different sets of interests. Some of them would like to see Outlook come out on Windows RT. Some would rather say the mail app should be the way it goes, and we're going to just fix that and make that the default app. So we don't really know if it's going to come out. I mean, people are talking about taking up petitions even because they're like, they've got to bring this thing out. It's unbelievable they wouldn't do that.
I mean, it definitely sounds like something that would happen to Microsoft. Again, the siloed approach causing a conflict. But I mean, for the good of the product, for RT, for Windows RT, they need something like Outlook. That's not just a web app. I mean, how could up top, like Steve Ballmer, not be like, look, get this out there. We have products sitting on shelves gathering dust. There was a bunch of reports out today talking about how Surfaces they've shipped a whole ton of them, but more than half apparently are sitting on shelves.
Yep.
What is it going to take for somebody up top to do something, Paul?
I don't know, like to fix this issue. I'm not sure what they could do.
Just point out, like, you guys work together. This divisive crap is not working for us, or it has worked has it worked so long that it just can't be changed?
I remember at Build, it must have been Build 2011 when they introduced Windows 8. Was it that long ago? I don't remember, but I think it was Chris Jones who showed the first, what were then called the Windows Live apps, and he showed off that mail app that they have built into RT and Windows 8 and the calendar app and the people app and everything. It was all very exciting, you know. I don't think they've updated it since that day. I mean, this app is so bare bones, and that's the problem. And it is astonishing to me that Microsoft has not brought those apps up to the level of functionality that already exists in the Windows Phone equivalents of them, you know. In the mail app specifically, you can talk about things like the ability to, well, drag and drop is not a phone capability, but it's something you can do on the web, you know, drag and drop messages into a folder. The ability to have a single, unified inbox view, which you cannot do in the mail app, which is crazy. I mean, it makes it seem so old-fashioned. Those apps need to be dramatically updated. Now, I don't think that solves the problem you're asking about, which is how do we get Windows RT devices off the shelves. But, you know, the call for an Outlook RT would be less, I think, if the built-in apps were any good, and they're just not. And to me, they're just at an embarrassing state. And given the way that Windows 8 was architected, where those apps can and should be updated regularly outside of the way that Windows is updated, it's kind of a crime that here we are, however many months later, it's not that many, and we've really not seen anything in the way of decent app updates for the core apps, and it's something that needs to happen.
Mary Jo, do you think there's any reason why Windows RT needs to have its own mail app instead of just saying, look, we don't have a mail app, go use Outlook? Is there a reason why this has to be one of the tens of built-in apps that are in this operating system?
The whole way they think about apps in the Windows division is kind of a mystery to me. Which apps they decide to have, which ones they say we don't really need to have. I don't know. They seemed, I believe it's the team that did Windows Live Mail that did the Windows Mail app. So I think they have this kind of feeling like, hey, we did the app that was already built into Windows before, so we should continue with that. And Microsoft's treating this bundle of mail, calendar, and people as kind of like a thing that they update together and that comes with every Windows RT machine. So I don't know. There seems to be kind of like almost like pride of ownership or something like that going on there where they think they can do it better. I don't know why.
It's not like the WordPad team or Notepad team is like no to Word. I mean, it just seems there must be a line somewhere. I believe you're right about the Windows Live.
Yes, I got to break this to you.
Oh, good gosh.
There is not a WordPad team.
It's just one guy.
I don't doubt
it. It was one guy, like 1986. Yeah. Like, there's no WordPad. Well, there's
no WordPad MX coming. Let's put it that way.
On that note, let's take a quick break.
I'm in New Orleans partying. I admit it. But I couldn't leave without.
Sorry, Tony, edit this to correct the intro of the ad, please. And go.
I'm in New Orleans partying. I admit it. But I couldn't leave without telling you about Carbonite.com. You know, backup is not something to be messing around with. Of course, I bring a laptop on my travels when I'm in New Orleans. I want to have my laptop, but what if I lose it? You know, hundreds of thousands of laptops are left on conveyor belts at the security checkpoints at airports every year. I saw the number was. It was like 750,000. It's a huge number. They're gone. Now, admittedly, you've lost the laptop, but you shouldn't have to lose the data. And that's where Carbonite is so great. Whenever you're online, wherever you are, Carbonite is safely, securely, and continuously backing up your data. It uses SSL, so it's safe to use anywhere. You can even encrypt it further, and only you hold the keys if you want. So if you're worried about privacy or you need to comply with government or other regulations, this is fantastic. And the best part is PC or Mac, $59 a year for everything on your computer. For that whole laptop, all your personal files, all your emails, all your pictures, all your documents, all your worksheets. And if you use the offer code Windows when you sign up for the 2-week free trial, did I mention 2-week free trial at Carbonite.com? You'll get 2 free bonus months if you decide to buy. So go to Carbonite.com, sign up today for the free trial, PC or Mac, use the offer code Windows. If you decide you like it, and I completely understand, I want you to try this free. That's why we set up the free trial. But I think you will like it, and if you do, you get 14 months for the price of 12, just $59. By the way, all those files are always visible in the cloud as well. It's cloud storage, too. That's a great deal for $59 a year. Unlimited cloud storage. Carbonite.com. Back to Ayaz, Paul, and Mary Jo. Windows Weekly is on the air. Go ahead, guys.
He's over in New Orleans, probably with that vuvuzela. I'm not sure if he actually brought it along.
I just saw pictures of him on Facebook eating beignets.
He was eating what now?
Beignets, those little donut-y things with the powdered sugar.
You learn something new every day. I did not know he was doing that. But was there a vuvuzela involved? That's my curiosity.
No, there were no horns.
He was walking around yesterday, blowing the horns in anticipation of that trip. So I'm pretty sure that whoever is seated next to him during the Super Bowl will probably be hearing that.
Is going to be hating life, yes.
Speaking of hating life, let's talk about Windows Phone 7.8. That was too mean. Even I don't like that one. I'm going to boo that one. Anyway, let's change that entirely. So Windows Phone 7.8 shipped out. This is that sort of upgrade to Windows Phone 7, that little thing that Microsoft gave to Windows Phone 7 users saying, hey, you know what? You can have changeable tiles too. So it's out. Which phones are getting it these days?
Good question. We wish we knew.
Which phones are getting it?
We know.
Is it just so?
We know.
I'd assume it's Windows Phone 7 machines at least, or those phones. That's the first step. But how many were there?
We don't even know that though. When we know some Windows Phone 7 devices are going to get the update. We don't know which ones are or not. We also know that Nokia announced yesterday that they are starting to push the update out to their users. But when we asked Microsoft, so who else is going to have it and when are they going to have it? Like when's it going out to like HTC and Samsung and all? They just said they had nothing to say.
Literally, there's not even a blog post.
No.
You're kidding. There's not.
So
I've
heard people are getting it on AT&T. I've heard people with Nokias are getting it. I've heard HTCs are getting it. It just depends. My own phones are not getting it. I can't explain it. And certainly have nowhere to go to try to explain it because they don't really explain anything over there. So it's kind of hard to say. But I guess the one thing we can say is the update did start going out yesterday. Some people certainly have gotten it. There are tricks you can do to get it. I'm specifically not doing those tricks because I want to get it legitimately and write about it. But man, I just wish these guys, they don't crack me up. They kill me. I wish they could just communicate, people want to know what's going on. I don't understand why they can't.
Or at least
do that.
tell us why they can't, right? Like that's the other unnerving part. It's like, okay, you can't just say, I can't tell you because you don't know how long the carriers are going to hold it.
Right. In other words, I sort of appreciate why Microsoft might not want to publish a chart that would describe in agonizing detail which carriers are not putting it out on which phones or whatever, because that would make people very upset. But something vague would be okay. It is starting to go out today. Carriers are going to deliver it on their own schedule. We anticipate that, most customers will have it by the end of the first quarter or something, anything. I mean, something really vague would be fine. I feel like we always have to prod these guys and prod these guys and prod these guys and hope that they finally say something about anything. But nothing. It's bizarre to me. I mean, they promised this thing last June. People have been up in arms over the lack of information about this, and now it's sort of shipping out. You'd think they'd want to get out there and say something about it, but they just don't do it.
So
too bad.
The way you can get Microsoft to communicate is kind of like a coma patient. You're like, just blink once.
Yeah, I swear to God, his hand moved.
Could you? Yeah. I
That's
think it was a Twitch.
Team, the Windows Phone team, exactly.
And then the doctor's just telling you that was an involuntary twitch. You're like, so you don't even know. Was it real? Was it not? And you're stuck, and you're just cursing to the skies. Joe Belfiore, why won't you tell me what's going on? You must know. Why don't you know?
There he is. He's saying exactly to you what he says to us.
He's not blinking. See, look, if he just blinks, we know that Windows Phone 7.8 is coming to all Windows Phone 7 devices, but he won't blink. If you're listening to the audio only, there's our picture of Joe Belfiore on the table, and we're asking him for help because this is the amount of communications
Joe,
we get.
You take away the sins of the world. Have mercy on us.
You give Windows 7.8 to some people. Have mercy on them. One day.
Nope.
Well, one day we'll know because they'll actually tell us, Joe. But he won't tell us. Well, you know what? I know who'll actually answer questions.
Crazy that you have that photo, right?
Well, the fact that I have it at the ready is thanks to our very quick Alex Gumbel, who's behind the TD station there, who ran super fast behind me and then came back with this picture. But anyway, speaking of actual communications, we're going to actually have questions from the listeners. I asked on Twitter if you got questions for Paul and Mary Jo. And the crazy thing is, these guys are actually going to give you answers. So they're not like Microsoft, unless you guys start...
to be clear, some of those answers will be, we have no idea.
Well, this is fine. And you can also blink.
We'll answer the questions. That's kind of a unique thing around here.
Okay, well, the first question I got, this is like the first one that happened within like seconds of asking was, can you ask Paul about freeing up space on the Surface Pro? That's what he asked me. So I'm asking you.
All right, so
how easy is it to free up that space?
You go up to the support. I'm gonna write about this when the Surface Pro is officially out. But the basic gist is there is a recovery partition that's on the drive, the SSD drive, I guess it is on this one, that has 8 gigabytes or more of wasted space. Essentially, you can create a USB-based version of that, save that thing away, and recover that space. And Microsoft actually documents this for Surface with Windows RT on the Surface website. So you can look for it there. But I'll write about it when Pro finally comes out. But my advice to you is, if you're going to buy a Surface Pro, 2 things. Well, actually, I have a lot of advice about that. But the first one would be go see it in person and wait for the reviews too. But I think this one, you're going to want the 128 gigabyte version. I don't even understand why they offer a 64 on this one, but I'd go with the 128, and then this conversation doesn't even matter at that point.
Well, that definitely sounds like a price point kind of decision. 64 gigabytes, keep that price low. Introductory of like, I could get that.
We're talking about less than 10%, though. I mean, you're going to spend $900 or $1,000. I mean, why would you go cheap at that point if you're going to get, I mean.
So you can say you start at a number. It's just anchor pricing. It's probably all psychological.
Those numbers exist to get people into the showroom, but the one you buy is the other one.
Maybe they don't even actually offer a 64 gigabyte Pro version.
I think that would be hilarious. It's like dessert at my favorite restaurant. You know, I actually joke with these people sometimes. You don't actually have dessert, do you? Because I see it's on the menu, but I never see anyone eating it. And I would certainly never order it. Why do you even have it? You know, it's like that.
I got a tweet from MD Talk. He asked, I think the obvious topic should be, what does BlackBerry 10 mean for Windows Phone? Does anyone, who wants to take this one? Did you guys watch the BlackBerry 10 announcement, or were you guys bored to tears?
That's ridiculous. So I don't believe in Sasquatch or UFOs either, but I will say that I don't think BlackBerry 10 means anything. I think that there's this weird irrational exuberance over it in tech blogger community, but not in the real world. And I think the number of people who are legitimately enthusiastic about BlackBerry is very small, and that over half the people that are still using it are doing so because they're forced to by work. So my prediction is that by the end of this year, Windows Phone will have a higher market share than BlackBerry, and I don't think this is going to be anything other than a very happy little blip. This is the company whose last big product was a tablet that nobody bought. If you think the return rate on Surface RT is high, you should look at what the return rate was on that thing. I don't see any indication that this is any different.
Mary Jo, did you notice that they're integrated things? It's a lot of the words hub being thrown around. Something looked like the People Hub that Windows phones had for a while. Should people be annoyed that they're somewhat, not want to say ripping off, but it seems like they're ripping off my Windows Phone, which has been like kind of the butt of jokes at this point.
I know. Like Paul just said, you know, the day they announced the BlackBerry 10, I thought it was just unbelievable in my Twitter stream, all the tweets I was seeing about it, but they were all from tech journalists.
Right, ridiculous.
And it was like overwhelming. And then I was kind of watching to see, you know, what are people saying out there kind of on other forums and places. And people are like, yeah, I don't know, you know, like it looked okay. It didn't bowl me over. I feel like Windows Phone has really kind of carved out a place for itself with this idea of the hubs and the live tiles and all. And the market's kind of Microsoft's to lose at this point in a way. It's like they've got the momentum going here. I'm not as bullish about Paul as to. I'm not definitively sure Windows Phone is going to own it over the BlackBerry. But if they don't, it's their own fault. I think the way they can do this is to really play up this year throughout 2013 what business features Windows Phone has, because that's a lot of the use cases for the BlackBerry is enterprise connectivity and all. And Microsoft's really still pushing the story about Windows Phone being a consumer play. So I think if they can kind of get the business messaging out there more, it will help them against the BlackBerry.
Now, nobody asked this from the audience, but I'm going to ask this. Do you think that the addition of Alicia Keys to BlackBerry is going to make a huge difference, since Gwen Stefani is the only celebrity, and Jessica Alba, I believe, are the celebrities involved with Windows Phone?
Oh, God, I can't stand celebrity endorsement stuff.
It's not doing it for you?
I have zero respect for that.
But the fact that they get installed as creative director of the whatever the heck it's called?
I enjoyed watching Steve Ballmer pimp Jessica Alba's business, whatever it was. I couldn't care less. To me, stuff like that is just terrible. Alicia Keys was last seen at an Apple keynote, you know, so apparently these people are available for whatever consumer electronics company decides to pimp them out. I just don't care or think that matters, personally. But
you're not connecting with a normal person.
You're right.
A question from Kevin Dublin. Is Microsoft's rumored investment in Dell a mark of confidence in the enterprise or consumer markets? This is the rumor to be putting in. So Dell, the story of this is Dell is working to go private. I don't believe that's been announced or anything. That's the reports. And to do this, it looks like Microsoft would invest, I'm not sure if this number's right, $1 to $3 billion? Is that what's been rumored around?
That's right. Yep.
Does that sound like Microsoft's, what does that sound like Microsoft's trying to do there?
I think they're trying to keep Dell from aligning themselves with any other vendors, for one thing. Because the new rumor this week was Microsoft wants more of a say in whatever Dell is going to do if they give them this money. So I'm sure what the say is here is, hey, no Android tablets, no Chromebooks. Right, you're doing Windows. That's it. That would be my guess.
I agree.
I might disagree with that one, only because Android makes money for Microsoft. And if Android tablets actually sell better, why would they stop that from happening?
This is that long-term game. In other words, it looks bad when one of your biggest perennial partners is selling products based on someone else's platforms, and obviously if Microsoft were going to invest in that company and help allow Dell to go private, they would want to have some agreement along the lines. And that's one of the things I've heard, generally speaking, that Dell would agree to focus on Microsoft software platforms and not make Android tablets, not sell Android smartphones, that kind of thing. So that makes sense to me. I mean, and there's some precedent for this. Microsoft obviously has a big investment in Nokia. They have a curious but big investment in Barnes & Noble and Nook. So these guys have been partners for a long time. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and Dell exactly hasn't made a successful Android tablet, I don't think. They made the Streak and a couple of phones, and we saw how well they dominated the market. So I'm not too worried about that one there. Somebody wanted me to ask Paul if he mentioned a week ago that there would be more than one model of the next Xbox.
Did I mention?
Did you? You should know. You were there.
That's a very specific question. Did I mention last week? I would put it this way: there were rumors that there was going to be a console, like a game console, and that there was going to be a low-end kind of a living room set-top box that wouldn't play games, right? And there were architectural diagrams where someone had split it in half and said, this part is only for the game, and everything else can go in both. And that those diagrams were correct at the time, and that things have changed. And so there's going to be announcements about the Xbox sooner than E3. And that's probably all I should say about that.
That's all. So you know everything. So if there's 8 consoles, blink.
If there's how many?
There's going to be 8.
There's more than. There's going to be more than one Xbox hardware something happening this year. No doubt about it.
Well, finally, I can't wait to rev that because I think it's going to happen. The rumors holiday season, but E3 probably will show it off eventually. A question about what is happening with Windows Blue. Any news? Mary Jo, any idea?
No news. No new news anyways. Last we heard, Blue is the update to Windows 8. It's coming summer of 2013. It's supposed to be like an under the cover kind of thing, possibly some APIs changing. So it's not clear like what kind of features are going to be in there, if there's going to be any UI changes. I mean, I saw some articles recently saying, guess what? The start button's not coming back. Yeah, the start button's not coming back. That's not what Blue is about. Blue is more about like under the cover API level stuff, not hey, let's bring back the start button. So we don't know anything more right now, but pretty soon I think we will know a little bit more.
Somebody in the chat room,
a little hint.
I love that. Like, bring the start button back is the focus of Blue.
That's the entirety. Like, we're gonna hold division.
After that, we're gonna bring back Program Manager too.
Exactly.
That'll be red.
Someone in the chat room is asking, when do you expect a Windows RT refresh? It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, that's a great.
Like the OS refresh. So I think this is just, by the way, complete supposition on my part. I don't have any inside information on this. I don't think Windows RT gets revved to V2 until Windows 9, like on that 3-year plan. I think that obviously both of those platforms get revved in the interim. Blue was a big part of that, and whatever app updates occur and all that kind of stuff. But when you look at something like Surface RT or any of these other RT devices, again, I could be completely wrong, and this is not based on anything other than my opinion. That is based on just experience with Microsoft and the way these things work. I don't see them getting updated to the next version of the platform. I see Microsoft looking at this device and at the RT devices and saying, look, this thing is basically an appliance. It is a self-contained unit. We're not going to do that. You're not going to go to a store and buy Windows RT V2 upgrade in a box. I just don't ever see that happening. So I don't mean, and don't take that the wrong way, I don't mean like they're orphaned. I obviously the application compatibility exists. So when Windows 9 or Windows RT2 or whatever it's called comes out, new apps will arrive, and they will, I'm sure, will work on Windows RT, the current devices. But I just don't see this thing being updated that way. I think that is only for Windows 8.
Yeah, I think more firmware updates, like they've done a couple of them already, right? So more like incremental firmware updates pushed through Windows Update, but not like, hey, here's Service Pack 1 for Windows RT. No.
Right.
Yeah, people in the chat room are likening it to the way that the Windows Phone is updated or iOS is upgraded. You just get a push upgrade. You don't buy software and then change anything with that. You probably will. I'm sure Windows RT will get a couple of those point upgrades, but it's going to be like under the hood. You're not going to really be noticing it like, oh, stand in line for this, or it's going to cost another set of cash.
It's a sealed box. I mean, it's not something you can add RAM to or change the storage on it. That's the way it's designed.
I think the more interesting question is, when are the set of apps that were integrated in with Windows RT going to get updated? So People, Mail, Calendar, all those things. Because I think that'll be sooner. That's a far more pressing issue.
Oh, well,
it is, and I think it's sooner, way sooner.
Yep.
Like maybe like in the next few months.
All the talk about Blue and RT2 and all that. I mean, it's understandable why people care about this stuff, but I look at these platforms and I think, they need help. I mean, and there's some very obvious things you could do very quickly to fix them. And you start with the apps. I don't understand how that hasn't already happened.
A question from RB. He's asking do each of you use Windows 8 as your main machine? Does anybody use it as their main machine?
I do not.
I do. I use it exclusively.
You do on purpose? Okay.
I like Windows 8.
You're always on the desktop, aren't you?
Windows 7 for me. Windows 7 is my champion.
So there we go. I mean, I don't see I don't see wanting to upgrade to Windows 8 other than the fact that it's going to change price tomorrow. So if you're listening to this, we record this on the 31st, and it costs about $40 to upgrade. Tomorrow it's going to cost around $200. I'm probably just going to download that immediately after the show because I probably will want the operating system.
But just pay for it. You don't even have to download it. Just pay for it. You can install it anytime over the web until October 2015, and you can download it at any time in the meantime.
Yeah, somebody's reminding me that Paul wrote a book on Windows 8. Of course, he's using Windows 8. Oh,
yeah, but I'm not using I don't know what the chicken egg is on this one, but I mean, I prefer Windows 8. I mean, I don't know why that's shocking to anybody, but I actually like it better than Windows 7.
Okay, we got this big question here. If you could ask anyone at Microsoft one question and they had to give you a straight answer, what would you ask? Mary Jo, I know you liked this question because you mentioned it on Twitter.
I did.
What do you have an answer for this?
There's just so many people. I know. There are so many people I can think of, like, oh, man, there's one question I'd love to ask. I don't know. I think my question would be to Steve Ballmer, and it would be, okay, who do you really think is the best person to be your successor when you decide to step down? And you have to tell me the real answer.
You know what Steve Ballmer is? And I don't mean this in like homicidal madman sense, but he's basically Stalin, right? Because he's gotten rid of anyone who could succeed him. So I don't actually, I mean, the answer to that question would be crazy. I mean, the person who will succeed him is the cyborg that will be created using his DNA in the near future. Like I bet he doesn't want anyone to succeed him.
So it'll be Steve Ballmer 2. He'll be the next one.
The quickening, exactly.
The clone of Steve Ballmer will then take over after that, and then, that's a really interesting question to even offer us, Steve Ballmer. I don't think he'd give you a straight answer. Paul, do you have a question for anybody at Microsoft that and they had to give you a straight answer though? I think that's the crazy part. They'd actually give you an answer. This is like
asking someone if you could go back in life and make one, do one thing differently. What would it do? I mean, obviously there are a lot of things. I mean, I have a lot of questions. In fact, arguably, I have nothing but questions. But I mean, it's hard to come up with something specific. I almost would want to go back to someone like Steven Sinofsky or someone involved with Windows and just ask, I guess, why? Why? That they've. There's sort of there's a subtle distinction, I guess, between making excuses and giving reasons for doing things. I want to know the real reasons, because I think publicly Microsoft gives you a kind of a press-friendly view of why things happen, but I want to know why things really happened the way they happened. You know, I want to know really why. And these are questions that do get answered, by the way, over time. You know, books will come out, people involved in all this stuff will eventually say it. But, you know, right now people are who work at Microsoft, when they speak publicly about the internal machinations of the company or the strategic decisions, have to speak a certain way. They have to be, you know, they have to toe the company line. And I want to know the truth. I want to know why, basically. I mean, why? Why did this happen?
And in typical Microsoft fashion, you'll get a because answer.
No, I mean, that's what I mean, though. I want the real answer. Like, I want to know. I just want to know.
You just want to know the truth. Just want to know what's going on.
It's like the you know, 42 is the answer to the question of the universe kind of thing. I want that answer.
I think I would be shocked if Microsoft would give a straight answer on that. Because once that answer comes out, I'm sure like a PR person will show up and be like, he doesn't speak for the company. That didn't happen. We've seen that with Steve Ballmer a bunch of times, too. I guess
this is a complete fantasy.
This fantasy should happen.
Yeah.
And if it does happen, we would never know, because how would they communicate the message?
It would be via an iMessage thing from an iPad, probably.
From their paid celebrity endorser. That's probably what's happening.
Yes, Jessica Alba will send it from her iPhone.
On social, the social network.
Yes, exactly.
That's where it would be. Or from a kin. I still like. I have a soft spot for
Vine
kin.
on Twitter.
Vine. Vine's only on iOS. Nobody uses that. Anyway, let's move on to our picks of the week. We have a tip of the week. What's the tip of the week this week?
Well, with the understanding that the $40 Windows 8 Pro upgrade is about to end, and that most people who listen to this podcast will not be able to take advantage of that by the time they hear it, Microsoft is offering a separate deal to students that starts tomorrow on February 1st, where students can upgrade to Windows 8 Pro for $70. And that's only a good deal when the $40 upgrade expires, of course, but it's still a savings of $130. And so if you are a student and looking down the road, you want to upgrade to Windows 8 Pro for whatever reason, there will be a not as good of an upgrade offer as we had before, but a better upgrade offer than is available elsewhere. So that starts tomorrow on February 1st.
And then again, as you can buy it right now, you don't need to install it right away if you want to get it that low cost.
Yeah, I wrote just a reminder post this morning about Windows 8 Pro upgrade for everybody in the world. Basically, you can buy it now. You don't have to install it right away. So if you think you're going to want to upgrade a Windows 7 PC, especially, but not today, you could still buy it today and do it later.
Before we get to our software pick of the week and rest of the picks, let's stop for a quick break and thank ShareFile. Leo, would you mind taking over?
Hey, Paul. Hey, Mary Jo. Don't mind me. I'm just going to interrupt this fabulous program, and I do mean fabulous. I'm enjoying every word that I imagine I'm hearing in this show because I'm making it up as I go along. I'm not even close to here. I'm in New Orleans. I'm probably lying under a bridge right now with an empty glass of Hurricane in my hand. That's how much fun I'm having. You know, one of the things I did before I left, I used ShareFile. I've talked about ShareFile before from Citrix. So one of the things I had to do before I leave is record a radio show. And I had to record the commercials. I had to record a bunch of cuts for the Sunday radio show. I'm not going to be there for that. And I used to use, kind of a consumer-grade file sharing service, and it really didn't work. The people at the other end hated it. They couldn't figure it out. They were deleting stuff. I had no control over it. So I started using ShareFile, and it's worked so nicely. I now use it all the time. Here's how it works. You can use it an Outlook plugin, or you can just go on the web page. They even have a ShareFile applications for Windows and Mac too, so they do kind of the automatic synchronizing. You create if you want, you can create a folder on your desktop or 2 or 3. I have a number of them that are automatically synchronized with the ShareFile cloud. Then, so you can go to the ShareFile website, pick the files there, and say, send them to this guy. You have complete control. You could say, this person needs to give me their email address and their name before they could download it. It will notify you if you want. You can have the download expire after a day, after a year, whatever. You can say they can only download 1 copy, 10 copies. You have you never lose control of the file. Those files, by the way, synchronized there, are always available and visible on the ShareFile site, either on a desktop computer or even on their free smartphone apps. I use the ShareFile app all the time. In fact, The nice thing is, okay, so I'm going to record all these commercials, right? Put them on the share file. I will send them to the relevant parties and say, here's the commercials. They get a nice little link that they just click, and it's very simple. They don't have to sign up for anything. They just download the file. But, and by the way, no more bounce backs, no more, basically unlimited file size. But let's say I forgot, or somebody says, hey, can you send this to somebody else? And I'm already on the road. I have ShareFile on my smartphone. Launch the application. All the files are there. I can look at them, play them back, read them. But I can also send them to somebody. Say, oh, here's the file. So you really, it is a much easier way for me to work. I've been using it like crazy. Imagine what kinds of files you share in your business: drawings, contracts, audio files like me, pictures, and the problem that people have getting them, the bounce backs, and the lack of security, frankly. ShareFile is fantastic. It's a great solution for this. I want you to try it free. Visit sharefile.com. Click the radio microphone. Actually, there isn't a radio microphone. I lied. Right at the top. Go ahead. Show the screen again. I think it's up at the top. See that? Radio listen. Oh, there is a radio microphone. It's tiny. Up at the green bar at the top. Radio listeners, click here. There is. I lied. Use when it says enter name or offer code. Please use the offer code Windows so that Paul and Mary Jo get credit. You could choose an industry. You don't have to, but choosing an industry lets it customize it for that industry. Make sure it's compliant with all of the regulations in that industry. So everything from accounting to media to journal, I mean, everything. Medicine, of course. Sharefile.com. Please use the offer code Windows. I think you're going to like it. Back to Windows Weekly.
Thank you, Leo. I really hope
explosion there.
I really hope he's not under a bridge right now, but I guess we can check later. I'm sure if he's posting on Facebook, he's probably not under a bridge. Unlikely. Wait, I don't know what his surface is like there. Anyway, let's talk about software pick of the week. What do we got this week?
So I'm actually going to change mine because one of the recent developments that occurred this week was that the Windows Phone team did announce something, which is that they've reached some kind of an agreement with Google whereby Google is going to hold off on killing EAS support for Windows Phone for, I think was it June or July? I don't recall. And that by that date, the Windows Phone team will implement CalDAV and CarDAV support in Windows Phone so that users can keep connecting to Gmail through IMAP and then Gmail contacts and also Google Calendar using these new protocols. And so that was kind of a standoff. So my original pick was a software app for Windows Phone 8 that enabled CarDAV support Windows Phone 8, but now I guess this won't be necessary.
I downloaded this for nothing? Like I just did this right now. I have it on my Windows Phone here, my Google Contacts, and it's got a spiffy little interface.
Yeah.
And
it's a cool little app. I mean, the free version only syncs a few things like name, phone number, and email, and then you can pay for it to get other stuff. But, in the near future, this won't be necessary. So it was a good idea for the time. I don't think anyone expected Google and Microsoft to get together and solve the problem. So they did. So my alternative tip is for Windows 8, and I've been meaning to write about this one. In fact, when the new version of Temple Run came out a couple weeks ago, I think for iOS, this game appeared on Windows 8 and also on RT, and it's very much like Temple Run. So if you understand that kind of a game where you're continually moving forward, you can speed up and slow down, and you pick up coins and so forth. It is called The Gunstringer. They had a one-day deal a while back. I mentioned it on Twitter. It was actually free, but it's only $1.49. It's a really fun game. It's the type of thing you want to play on a tablet, not on a computer, because you want to hold the screen. You can navigate using the screen. It's a cool little game. So you should pick that one up instead of that productivity solution I recommended for the phone instead, I guess.
Productivity is overrated. Forget that. Let's talk about the enterprise pick of the week. What do we got, Mary Jo?
Yeah, so this week, this was an announcement that surprised a lot of people. Microsoft announced that they're going to be integrating Git, the open source version control system, with its own Team Foundation service, as well as with Visual Studio. So when people first heard this, they couldn't believe it because Git is associated mostly with Linux. But Microsoft's been using GitHub more and more, so it wasn't a total surprise to me. Still, they have a very aggressive roadmap for integrating Git. They've got a plugin for Visual Studio 2012 that is in test right now. They say it's going to be integrated into the next version of Visual Studio whenever that comes out. Team Foundation service, it's already integrated right in there. So it's pretty interesting for people who have felt that Microsoft had a very good centralized version control system with TFS, but not a very good one for decentralized. And their blog post was super interesting about this because they admitted, we thought about buying a company, we thought about doing this, we thought about doing that, but in the end we just said, you know what, the open source, let's back that. So very interesting to see Microsoft say, hey, open source had a better way here, and we decided to just back their play.
And Microsoft
So
quietly doing a lot of open source stuff. I mean,
Yep,
I
very
don't know if
much.
they get a lot of credit for that, but slowly. Who knows? Maybe the future of
It's
Windows is, or maybe the future of Microsoft is open. That's kind of a crazy idea.
Shame on you, sir.
Now you're getting crazy. That's
Hey.
getting crazy.
Speaking of crazy, let's talk about the code name pick of the week. What do we got on the list here?
Yeah, so this is a code name somebody tipped me on that I had never heard. It dates back to the late 90s. Actually, it's YBox, YBOX. So everybody's like, oh, what's that? Does that have to do with Xbox? Not really. It was an idea that Microsoft could create a home server based around some version of Windows, later known as Windows XP. And it would be kind of like a residential gateway that had some advanced storage and app serving capabilities. And supposedly the reason they called it YBox wasn't because it had any relationship directly to Xbox, but that it was just being kind of thought about and incubated near the Xbox team. So that was one of those blasts from the past in the codename files. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. There was something called YBox way back when.
Did this turn into Windows Home Server? Is that what this thing turned into, or was this a separate project?
I think it was a separate project, but it probably had something to do with the Windows Home Server team and what became Windows Home Server at that point.
It could just be the second box you had in your home from Microsoft that you didn't realize was Microsoft, but then they called it Windows Home Server.
Yep.
Well.
Then you're like, oh.
It was I really like Windows Home Server, by the way. I thought it was a brilliant idea, but I think it was ahead of its time. This idea that you could access your stuff from anywhere and have a dedicated home network that did all these things. I just think it's too hard to explain to the general
The
public.
word server doesn't help either.
No. Wasn't there that children's book, Mommy, Is There a Server in the House? Or Why Is There a Server in the House?
Yep.
Yeah.
There was.
Let's move on to the best part of the show, the beer pick of the week. Because that's what I'm going to have after this episode. What's the beer pick of the week?
So beer pick of the week is a beer that I actually got shipped to me from a Windows Weekly listener, which was really cool. So out at Grimm Brothers Brewery in Colorado, we have a listener, Paul Ferguson, who's one of the marketing directors there, and he shipped me this beer called Grimm Brothers Little Red Cap. And it's a German-style alt beer. I think it's called Red Cap because it has like a coppery color to it. And it won a big award in the Great American Beer Festival in 2011. And it was really great. And it was so awesome that he heard us talking about Beer Pick of the Week on Windows Weekly and said, you know what, I wanna be part of that. And so he shipped it out from Colorado. And it was a great beer to have because this, as of yesterday, I finished my beer challenge. I drank
40-something, but Skype froze. It couldn't handle what was going to happen next. And while you just froze there.
No.
So wait, what was your beer? You just finished your beer challenge? And you finished what now?
I'm froze. I did. I finished my beer challenge, 40 styles, drank in 30 days. I completed it yesterday, so.
And you remembered you did it. That's impressive.
I know. I did it. Yep.
Well, that sounds, I definitely want to find out. So Grimm Brothers sounds like it's a local and somewhere in Colorado. Let's see if they have that somewhere at a specialty place. But I think that wraps it up for us. Paul Thurrott, there seems to be a book on top of your avatar for some reason. It happens to be your book, Windows 8 Secrets by Paul Thurrott and Rafael Rivera. Look at that. You're an accomplished author as well as a prolific writer online. Where should people find your glorious work online?
Well, mostly at winsupersite.com. I'm also on Twitter at Thurrott. And that's most of it. WindowsITPro.com, of course, as well.
But they can't find you in the local dance troops anymore?
No, I've been banned from dancing in public.
Okay, well that was quite the sight, folks. You definitely missed out if you missed Paul dancing. Mary Jo, where can people find your work? All about Microsoft somewhere. Where would be a good URL for something like that?
Yes, perhaps allaboutmicrosoft.com, which is my blog. And on Twitter, I'm Mary Jo Foley, all one word. You can read about all Microsoft goings on and beer sometimes too.
And beer. And actually, I just got myself a Captain Lawrence Imperial IPA from the East Coast. I'm super excited about that.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's an awesome beer.
And they don't have it out here, so thanks to my friend for sending it out. Anyway, that does it for this episode of Winners Weekly. This show records at 11 o'clock Pacific time, around 11 o'clock. Leo will be back next week, so if you want to watch that, don't forget live.twit.tv is where you can watch it. It's available for download. You can watch it even in glorious HD if you want to. There's HD feeds, audio feeds, tiny feeds, whatever you want. These are the options you got, all available at twit.tv. I'm Isaac, and we'll see you, everybody, next week.